hitting the record button, and eventually I will post this video if you want to look at it again or something like that. So welcome everyone to this first meeting. And what I want to do is do a number of things. So I am going to share a screen with you. And the screen that I'm going to share with you is my applications screen. And then I'm going to share with you some PowerPoint slides. Now, the PowerPoint slides, I am going to not only have the video, but I am also going to have the slides themselves, but I actually may annotate these slides as we go through. And so, I'll make a copy of whatever we have at the end of this thing. So you guys don't have this right now, but you someday will have it. And I'm assuming, Eleanor, and again, I'm not going to try to pick on you, but I'm assuming you now can see sort of a PowerPoint slide.
Yeah, that's correct.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so here we go. This is an outline of what I plan to do in our time together. And Jesse, I'm going to move your Cameo up probably. And Jesse, you're welcome to stay, forever. And you're always welcome here, you know that, but also I did promise you that this could be a quick thing. And by the way, I'm working with Jesse in 3 of my courses. We're doing the differential equations again here, and we've done differential equations here. We're also doing discrete math, and Jesse's done that with me before. Jesse, I don't think you've done linear algebra with me before. Is that true? And we may have lost Jesse somehow. So I thought he was there before, but now I'm not hearing him. So, okay, I'll poll him later, and we're not going to start with him. I was going to let him start with it. Okay, so I'm going to talk kind of about my model and what's important to me. And then I'm going to talk about some fundamental arithmetic that's important. I am going to walk through the syllabus kind of quickly, and I am going to, touch base and see if Jesse is there. In fact, I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment and go back to here and see if Jesse's sitting out there. Jesse is not sitting out. Oh, wait, he is. Hey, Jesse, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I'll let you speak first. And again, you're welcome to stay. I don't know why I was trying to call on you before. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again, and you're showing up as I don't know, I guess a co-moderator or something, which is fine. But what I'm going to do is oops, I need to share my screen again. Hold on. I actually am, well, I'm better in a classroom than I am at this, but anyway, I'm sharing the thing. But Jesse, these are the things that I told them that you could talk about, and you certainly can say anything else. So Jesse Hayes Carver is going to do a cameo. He's going to talk about GSGs, what he does. I don't know if he knows when he's going to do it, but that's fine. Jesse, a little bit more generally, I'd like for you to talk about the Learning Commons, because there's, reasons for people to know about that even beyond the GSGs, and maybe a little bit about the math assistance area. And Jesse, I'm not asking you to do, in-depth dives, but talk a little bit about that. I am going to say some things, and these are similar to things that I said about Jesse before in some of the videos. But Jesse started at developmental math at the College of DuPage, and I've been blessed to know Jesse for a long time. Jesse recently finished his master's degree, and he's still working with us a little bit. One of these days, God willing, Jesse will, finish his PhD and be teaching somewhere, maybe even, God willing, teaching here, because we would be blessed to have him. He is one of the best math students to have come through the College of DuPage, and he started with developmental math. He's worked with me in many courses, and you could not have a better person. It's a little bit sacrilegious, but I will tell you that there are some math students who refer to Jesse as the math Jesus, because he's made a good contribution to actually providing their salvation in a course. I do know that the last time I taught differential equations, which I guess was last term, I need to think about this. Fully a third of my class was involved in Jesse's guided study groups, and they just couldn't say enough good things about it. They learned as much in Jesse's sessions as they learned in my lectures. So anyway, Jesse, I'm turning this over to you, and you can talk for a while and say whatever you want. So go ahead, please, Jesse.
Yes, thank you, Jim. So as Professor Bradley had mentioned, I started College of DuPage in developmental math, specifically the geometry course, and that course was actually offered with our professor, Jim Bradley, as the instructor. And since then, I've gone through many of the math courses at College of DuPage, including differential equations. In fact, I have even sat in on the class for fun. I really do enjoy this course. It's a wonderful capstone to your math career at College of DuPage. As Professor Bradley mentioned in one of his earlier emails, I believe it was today or yesterday, that there is an extensive review of techniques from calculus, even some from pre-calculus, that will have show up at moments through the course. So I'm very excited to do those and review those with you as they come up. After finishing math at COD, I then transferred to Illinois State University, where I did my undergrad, got my bachelor's there in mathematics and my master's in mathematics. I did the accelerated program, which is a master's degree in 1 year. During that time, I still worked at College of DuPage, often with Professor Bradley doing our guided study groups. To speak a little bit more about those, a guided study group, or GSG as we'll abbreviate it, is an opportunity for students to meet with a tutor, myself in this case, where we can discuss content that is going on in the class, where this may differ from an appointment or, say, the services that Math Assistance provides, is that I meet with Professor Bradley on a weekly basis. And the purpose of that is to get an idea as to where your class is in terms of the material, perhaps what the class may be struggling with, and also to get some insight as to where the class is going. And having that information, I can better tailor my sessions to suit the needs of the students. And also, for the students who attend my sessions, I'll often ask questions as to how the class is going, or perhaps, what modifications might be made. And I can share that feedback anonymously with Professor Bradley during our weekly meetings. So it's a wonderful chance for students to stop by, keep pace with the class. It's a safe environment, especially when we get to questions that you may feel too embarrassed to ask in the classroom, something that's review material from, say, the days of pre-calc, Math 1431 at College of DuPage, that you haven't seen for, about 2 years now, if you do the courses in order. So I like to have our GSG as, again, a safe place to ask questions. Often LSAs are able to be discussed. Those are the low stakes assessments, which I'm sure Professor Bradley will elaborate more on when he gets to the syllabus topics. It seems I'll have the dates and the times and the places locked in later this week, and I'll send an announcement the same way Professor Bradley does through Blackboard and have it emailed to you as well. But it seems that our GSGs will occur before class on Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Once I have that locked in, of course, this will be with tutoring services. I'll send that announcement to everybody and post it on Blackboard. But tentatively, that's the schedule. Let's see, other things. Oh, yes. So other services for the Learning Commons, we have our tutoring center, we have reading, writing, speech assistants, we have math assistants. There's a whole bunch of different houses or different services that all live within the same house. And I'm a part of tutoring services. And we offer guided study groups, in-class assistance, where a tutor may be posed in the class for the duration of the term. We have appointments. Those interested in scheduling appointments with me outside of GSGs can contact tutoring services. I can include that information in my announcement when I know more about our GSG. We have drop-ins. We also have one for math that'll be in the evenings. I believe it's from 4 to 7. But again, once I have those details, I'll include that in my announcement. We have the math assistance area, which Bradley knows a little bit more about it than me. I know they're open, many more hours than tutoring services. But there you have the opportunity to work with somebody who has typically a master's degree in mathematics, and a 15-minute session, come as you need, and you can cycle through and get assistance on a wide variety of things, not just mathematics, but several STEM classes such as computer science, chemistry, physics, all depending on who's staffed at that time. Is there anything I'm missing, Jim?
I really don't think so, Jesse. That was you. So I'm going to give the students an opportunity if they want to ask you questions right now. The one thing I would say about the math assistance area, in fact, I'm totally by myself, but I am sitting in there right now just because it is my nature to come here and hang out. I hope that as the term goes by, we're really doing things face to face, and I'll get to see a bunch of you here and things like that. But this is where I hang out actually quite a bit more than usually going into my office. So Jesse, I'm going to count to 10 Mississippi in my head, just in case students want to ask some questions. So if you want to ask some questions of Jesse about any of this things that he talked about, I'll give you the count of 10, and if somebody asks a question, I'll restart it. I am going to ask that you probably stop being muted and just shout out, just because I'm looking at these PowerPoint slides, so I might not see your comments there. So I'm going to count to 10, and Jesse did a good job of explaining that, so there might not be any questions, but I'll allow a beat of 10 for this. So we'll have silence unless someone is asking a question of Jesse.
Also, feel free to post questions in chat. If for any reason you can't unmute yourself, I have that open as well.
Okay, so Jesse's there to look at that, at least for now. And I mentioned Jesse, I told Jesse this was a cameo opportunity. So, he certainly doesn't have to stay the entire time, but he is always welcome. So anyway, I'm counting now. And I guess as a final comment then, I do, during these interactions with Jesse, I do share him draft tests and things like that. So he comments on my tests and things like that. So, he will really know what's going on, and he can help you prepare, and he comes up with, his own exercise sets and stuff like that sometimes. So anyway, it's really great. Jesse, thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll be able to make a similar kind of drop-in at the linear algebra and the discrete math. And you certainly are welcome to stay, but I just wanted the students have an opportunity to truly know of you, and if at all possible, take advantage of the services you can provide them.
Oh, certainly. And thank you for having me, Jim. For convenience, if anybody would like to contact me outside of this Blackboard Collaborate meeting, I've included my email, hayes-carverj@cud.edu. I've posted that in the chat, and feel free to email me and contact with any questions that you may have.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Jesse. So I'll put a theoretical check mark on that one. Now, I'm going to go back then, and I'm going to talk a little bit about philosophy, but I think there's an analogy that I'm fond of, and we'll talk about that. I also am going to talk about my three things. We're going to do some fundamental arithmetic, and that's really kind of telling you how I plan to run this session. We are going to walk through the syllabus. Now, I gave you videos where I talked about the syllabus. It's been there for you to read, but I do want to walk through it. That doesn't mean we're going to spend a long time doing it, but we'll do it because there might be questions, and so that's useful. And I do want you to ask questions if you have them. So please just shout out. Again, I'm looking at this PowerPoint slide, so you may want to shout out, but you could, you can put something in the chat box, and every so often I'll look in the chat box too to see what's going on. We'll do a little bit of a tour of Blackboard because I use Blackboard a lot. In fact, perhaps more than some instructors will. And depending on what happens in this course, as time goes on, we may be doing it even a lot more. There is, and you haven't seen it yet, but you will see it now, what I call an LSA1, that stands for Low Stakes Assessment. And I am going to launch that today, and I'll give you some context around that, so that is good. And then we're going to, time permitting, and I think we will have some time to do this, we'll actually do some work. Now, I'm not worrying about covering material because, to tell you the truth, I posted a whole bunch of videos, and things are going there. I'll say more about that, but I do expect you to be watching those videos and learning from those videos. So this lecture will be an amplification of that. And then I am going to pause at the end, and I am probably going to poll everyone who is here with me to see, do you have any questions at the end of this thing before we finish today? But your questions don't have to wait till then. Anytime you want to ask a question, let me know. Okay. So this is my analogy. We are all on a craft, and this craft is taking off, and it is flowing through COVID clouded skies, and you see that these are not simple skies. Now, it turns out that I guess I have to say that I am the pilot and Jesse is the co-pilot, but if I die or something, Jesse's fully capable of flying this plane by himself. But anyway, you've got an excellent flight crew. We've done this before and things like that. I've done differential equations totally net. I've done it VCM. I've done it face-to-face in the classroom. And you really do have a experienced flight crew. Jesse, we couldn't have a better GSG leader than Jesse, and he is here with us. And in a sense, you guys are passengers on this plane, and my intent is to land this at our destination, which means you've learned a lot about differential equations and land it safely. Now, what really will happen, though, is I would not be at all surprised if there was turbulence. For example, my dream was that I was going to be meeting you face-to-face in a classroom today, and they said, whoops, we're not going to do that. That's probably not the only turbulence we will have, and I'm praying that, gee, we can start doing that when we get to February the 7th or whenever that is. But for now, we're doing this, and it's fine. I can do this. Jesse and I know how to do it. But what you want to do is trust your flight crew and keep your seatbelts buckled and tray tables stowed and luggage because we could hit some turbulence. We'll handle the turbulence just fine, but that's what happens. And sometimes I will send you an email just talking about cockpit commentary, and that's just like the pilot said, hey, we're approaching some turbulence, fasten your seatbelts or something like that. That's my analogy. Okay, now when COVID started, I was angry for about half of a day. And then I said, well, I need to decide what I'm going to do. And I thought long and hard about this. And I have three things that I decided mattered to me. And these are the three things, and this is the order in which they matter to me. And this has to do with my abilities, but it also has to do with my control, the things that are in the locus of my control. So my number one thing is I want to teach you the very best course I know how to teach, and that's a pretty damn good course, okay? And so that's my first thing. And if I decide, when I'm deciding what I want to do, I say, well, I could work on, improving my lectures, and I can do that. And so that's my number one thing, is to teach you the very best course that you can get. I never want anyone in this course to feel they need to apologize saying, well, yeah, but I studied differential equations at a community college. I've studied differential equations at non-community colleges, and I've taught differential equations there. And I know that I can teach you a very good course that you never have to feel bad about that you took here. So anyway, that's my number one thing. Now, I do realize that everyone is busy, and also things are screwed up everywhere. I'm not going to share too much with you the things that are screwed up in my life, but there are things that are screwed up in everybody's life because of this COVID. And one thing, I was frustrated when I said, you mean I can't teach in the classroom again? Because I was able to do that last term. But anyway, I realize people are dealing with a lot. And so my number two thing is I want to help students as much as possible in dealing with their circumstances. Now, the reason this is my number two thing and not my number one thing is you might have situations that are way beyond my control and way beyond your control. So I can try to help you and be sympathetic and empathetic, but I can't guarantee that I can solve things, but I don't mind hearing what you got going and trying to help you with that. So that is my number two thing. I want to help students manage their anxieties if they exist, and chances are they do. And then my number three thing is within a wholesome discipline, render grades, and that says graces, that should say grades. Sorry about that. I can see, this is why I can fix this. So I'm going here and grades gently. Okay, so your educational goals need not be deferred. You can get them done, but I really want to render grades somewhat gently. Now, when I say beyond a wholesome discipline, and this is a terminal course because this is a capstone course. And I do want you to understand, in fact, my goal would be that if you're taking engineering courses or stuff like that, you could go into your engineering courses and say, I'm not worried about the math, I just need to worry about the engineering. So that really is my goal, but I'm also probably not going to grade as harshly in this course as I will grade in my Calculus 1 course. And the reason I grade harder in my Calculus 1 courses, those students have to go into Calculus 2. And if they don't know Calculus 1, they're sunk in Calculus 2. So anyway, I'm hoping to render grades gently. Okay, so those are my three things. Now I'm about ready to go and wade into some scheduling arithmetic. You can still hear me, Eleanor, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, great. And again, anybody that's got questions, shout them out. Or if you can't shout them out, throw them in the comments and I'll get to them soon. Okay, now we're doing a little bit of scheduling arithmetic. So this is the course that you signed up for. We meet Monday and Wednesdays, theoretically, from 1 to 2:50. And there is a room where someday I hope we're meeting, but more about that as time goes on. Now, this is a 4-semester-hour course. And what that means administratively is that you're paying for four academic hours of excellent instruction. And an academic hour, though, is not 60 minutes. An academic hour is 50 minutes. And this is a 4-hour course, so that means each week you get 4 times 50 or 200 minutes of quality instruction. Now, this says that we're meeting from 1 to 2:50 p.m. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so 1 to 2:50 p.m. Now, I have learned from experience, I'm also a parent and I know my youngsters and things like that. It is a little bit too brutal for me to ask people to listen to me for more than 75 minutes unless they want to listen to me for more than 75 minutes, okay? And so my thought is that what we will do is I'll have you listen to me for 75 minutes, which is 1 to 2:15-ish. Now, I've got to tell you that this is more an accommodation for the students than it is an accommodation for me, because my metabolism is I would really like to just go through the whole time. But I found that students often say, I really need a 10-minute break. And so that's the time when I'm going to try to give the 10-minute break. Now, the reason I'm telling you that is that, like, please don't think I'm losing track of what time it is or anything like that. Don't think that I am lost in space. If you have to go to the bathroom, certainly you want to go to the bathroom. But if you're this can kind of be a guide as to how you hydrate yourself, or if you're hungry or something, you can kind of plan, this is what I'm going to do. Now, when I say ish, if I'm in the middle of a compelling, I think it's compelling anyway, discussion, I might say, no, I'm going to finish this, but I will always give you the 10-minute break. Now, it's a little bit awkward that we have this 10-minute break after that many minutes, because then when you come back, it will be 2:25-ish, and we'll go to 2:50-ish. That means we got 25 minutes. But that's kind of okay. This is what I've done sometimes in differential equations. I also have plowed straight through, but I think this is probably better for you, just so you know that this is going to happen. Now, right now, though, I don't know for sure what will happen today. We might very well go that entire time today, but also I've thrown up all kinds of videos for you to watch and things like that. And I was doing that because, class time can't be as productive whenever we're doing that. So anyway, this is the model. Now you might say, well, gee, how does that add up to 200 minutes? Well, 75 and 25 add up to 100, but we meet Monday and Wednesday, that's twice. And so that means I would double this, and that's exactly the 200 minutes that you have paid for. So that's my plan to do even today. And again, if we finish what I want to talk about today, I don't mind just saying, hey, go watch the videos, but I do expect you to be watching those videos. So that's my scheduling arithmetic. That's what I plan to do. Now I am going to what I'm going to call the syllabus walkthrough. Now I have a video where I went through the syllabus. There's a piece of paper there for you to read and everything else. But we're going to go through this, and I think I have the syllabus down here somewhere. Let me see if I do have it. I may actually have to, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to go and I'm going to download the syllabus. Don't worry about this. It will be fine, but I want to make sure that I download actually our syllabus. We're going to go through this, and you can go, if you want to your, let's see, we call that Blackboard syllabus tab, and if you want to, you can follow that along too. Sometimes what I find myself doing, though, is getting a little bit lost in this whole thing, so bear with me. I will call up the syllabus, and we're going to go through it just a bit. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, and I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm sharing my application screen again, and you all will be able to see our syllabus here. And maybe I'll download that just so I have it on the desktop and you can see this. Okay, so it is going to be there, and I guess I'm going to ask Eleanor Can you see something that looks like a PDF document?
Yeah, the syllabus, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going through it. Now, okay, I'm not going to read this definition or the description, but that's actually that's important to me because those are things I'm going to teach you. I might teach you more things than that. Often I have time left at the end of the term. I might do more, but that's all I have. And then we have course objectives. Now, these are things that you are supposed to be able to do, and these all have action verbs. So, for example, the number one says you want to be able to solve first order separable and homogeneous, and then it says exact equations. I expect you to be able to do all of that as we go on, but if you're caught up on the videos, you know how to do those first two already. But we'll talk about some of those. Those are all action verbs. I take those very seriously. And then we go through, and here's a thing that's called a topical outline. Now, this topical outline, somebody thought this was a good order to do things, and it's not a bad thing. And we will do all of these things, but I'm going to do these things in a little bit different order. Trust me, I know what I'm doing, and there's a reason I'm doing it, and I'll talk about why I'm doing some of the things I'm doing. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. We'll do those things. This is a picture of me. I don't look exactly like this now. My hair is way longer and I'm wearing a mask most of the time, but I, kind of, I mean, if you saw me, you'd say, yeah, that's kind of what he looks like. Now, these are the office hours I planned to do. And in fact, I was in the SRC 2102, which is the Learning Commons, this morning. And I am going to I'm changing these hours a little bit. I didn't change the syllabus right up, but I'm changing the hours. I'm going to be here at 8, and I am going to be here till 9:15. At 9:15 is when I go off to teach my Calculus 1 course, and then I come back here. So 8 to 9:15 here. But then I realized a lot of the students aren't going to be on campus, and so I also set up a Zoom thing. You should have gotten an email from me telling you about that Zoom address. And please understand that what I do when I'm sitting here, I'm not just staring at an empty Zoom screen. I put that over in the corner and I try to do some work. And when I'm doing the work, if you come on, be patient and kind of yell at me or something, and I'll come and do that. And I am kind of watching what's happening on the Zoom, but I am doing work, so realize that will happen. So I'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday office hours, and those things are first thing in the morning, and there'll be Zoom until we can quit doing the Zoom. And then I do have virtual office hours, and it says 9 to 9:50, and I got to double check because I keep juggling this time. I was teaching a class that met till 9:30, but I think they changed it so I don't have to teach that class anymore, and so maybe I'm back to 9, but there will be evening office hours you can go to, and there'll be a Zoom address there. Okay, and hopefully we're going to be able to, after a couple of weeks, go back to being in the campus or in the room, and that will be good. Now here is what the bookstore says is the book, and some students say, oh gee, are we doing WebAssign, or are we doing My Math Lab and stuff like that? We're not doing that. And this is a thing that you can rent, and this is the book of record that we're going to be using. I have had students who don't buy the book, and I have students who say there's a very cheap version of this book called the Classic 5th Edition that in fact is on my desk right now. And this is like the 11th edition, and some students say, hey, I can get the Classic 5th Edition really cheap, and this 11th edition would cost me $150. You can get by with the Classic 5th Edition, and I think I actually give pretty good notes, and some students maybe can get by even without a book, but that's what we have. I'll also say that in the Learning Commons, they have copies of all the books, so some students come in here and just use our books, and that's fine. So that's the book of record, and that's kind of how I'll treat it. There are going to be two things that I'm going to call high stakes assessments. And by that, I mean how you do on these things really does matter to your grade. And so one of these things is going to be called the final exam, and that's going to be at the end of the term. And the other thing is going to be called the midterm exam, which will happen around midterm. Both of these exams are going to be comprehensive. It's everything we've covered up till then. And there's a lot of opportunities for you to do well, but these are important opportunities for you. That's why I call them high stakes assessment. Now, these will be proctored and will be administered in the testing center at the College of DuPage. Now, what that means is I put them in the testing center and I give you a window of time to take these. And it's not, oh, take it from 1 to 250. It's going to be, hey, there are these 2 or 3 days, take it sometime then. And that gives you some flexibility. And also, that gives you an opportunity perhaps to spend more than an hour on the exam if you want to. It's good for me also because we can actually do math in our classroom and things like that. So for a lot of reasons, this is good for the students and it's good for for me. And I'm a big fan of doing this. So that is my plan right now. I'll announce when these things will be, and that'll be well publicized. The content will also be well publicized. I'll share the content with Jesse Hayes Carver, and everything will be good with that. Given that flexibility, there really shouldn't be a need for makeups, but I am about accommodations. So share your issues with me if you have issues. I'm not taking a attendance, so to speak. But I do think I'll work very hard to make these class sessions valuable for you, and also the videos I think are going to be good, and I do expect you to watch the videos and watch them as active learners. That probably means with pencil and paper and maybe watching them more than once. I do expect you to be honest. Academic honesty is expected. Those high stakes assessments will be proctored. And although academic honesty is a partnership between faculty and students, I have to say that I found this is a work in progress. And so make sure you realize that honesty is expected. My big thing is about the course content and trying to teach you good content, but I do have to give you grades because that's what the college thinks has to happen, and you actually need the grades to prove that you completed the course. So here are some comments about grades. I know I shared this with you other places, but I want to make sure it's understood. The first two things are kind of general comments. Eleanor, I am wiggling my cursor. I am not sure if you can see that. Can you see me wiggling a cursor right now?
Yeah.
Really? Okay, that's really cool. So that means I'll continue wiggling then. Okay. So the genuine metric is what you learn. At the end of the course, I'm going to think about, gee, did my students learn a bunch of stuff? And if you did, that makes me feel good, and you should feel good. That's the thing that really matters. I also tell students, and it's really true, although some of them say, no, I've had to fight for every damn point I have and things like that. I really believe it's true, based on my experiences, that if you learn the material, the grades will care for themselves. I really believe that. Having said that, though, there will be 3 components to your grade. Now, 2 of them I've already talked about. There'll be a midterm exam that weighs in at 100 points. There'll be a comprehensive final exam that weighs in at least 100 points. Again, there are many opportunities to be successful in this course, and there are things that I call low stakes assessments that will happen along the way. Now, low stakes assessments, and we'll talk about one of these soon, but low stakes assessments involve things that I call take home protocols. You see, I'm okay if I give you a low stakes assessment and you think about it and you say, boy, I really want to talk to Jesse Hayes Carver about that, or I want to go to Jim's office hours, or I want to go to the Learning Commons and talk to somebody about these problems, or talk to some of my classmates. That's all okay. That's take-home protocols. That's okay. It's learning. But I don't want people to go to Eleanor and say, Eleanor, I want to copy your homework. Low stakes assessment turned in. It's okay if they go to Eleanor and say, gee, Eleanor, I really don't even know how to start. Well, she can help, things like that, but I want the work to be your own, because that's the only way you learn anything. And in aggregate, I will normalize these low stakes assessment to be a third of your grade. I'll talk about more later. I actually, the last differential equations class I had was in fact very small, and all the students were really good, and I never thought this would happen, but it did. All the students got an A. Now, that doesn't mean everybody gets an A automatically, but all of them did get an A because they just did well. So everybody got an A in that course. That doesn't always happen, and in fact, everybody could fail. This is not a curve. It's a grading scale that I have a kind of a nominal thing. Okay, I will not withdraw you. You have to withdraw yourself, and I'll show you a schedule on the academic calendar. I do have students who have, because of their circumstances, needed incompletes, but I don't grant those very often, but talk to me if you have issues. I do want to make this be a very value-rich things. These are the COD values: integrity, honesty, respect. I do plan to respect you. I plan to, for you to be respecting me and Jesse Hayes Carver as well. I'm responsible for trying to teach you the best course I know how. It'll be a pretty good course, and your responsibility for learning things, watching the videos and doing some problems and learning things. And let's see, equity. I really am all about fairness, and sometimes students will come to me and say, hey, wink, wink, just give me some extra points. And I will say, well, I can't wink, wink and give you extra points, because then I have to give everybody wink, wink extra points. There's some really great academic support. Jesse talked a little bit about that. The Learning Commons is kind of a big deal. And oh, this actually is, there's a hot link. When I get to the going over Blackboard a little bit, I'll talk about that. And GSG, we are blessed to have Jesse Hayes Carver. We could not have a better person with us. I am going to deploy your things in the testing center, and you go there and take your tests. And there are some important things going on at the College Edu page, and I do expect you to match up with this. For example, today, masks are required, okay? And masks might be required for a while, so you have to deal with that. We also have and there's videos on this on Blackboard and other places, but you see, I have a thing that says, are you in compliance or not? That means, have you been tested, or do you have your vaccine cards on file, or whatever? And the College Edu page has things in place, and so I really do want you to finish this course. I want you to get good grades. I want good things to happen for you. I want you to learn a lot. But the College Edu page has these administrative things. You must pay attention to them, because I have to pay attention to them. If you have access and accommodations, let me know. Many people who have accommodations, though, it's just I get extra time, and you get as long as you want in the testing center. So, there's some good things there. This is the calendar for 2022. Some things are important there. It shows you the last day to withdraw. We have a spring break. Our final exam will happen during that week. We'll say more about that. And in fact, there is a schedule at the College Edu page. Now, this class meets from 1 to 2:30. That means it starts from 1 to 3:30, and we meet Monday and Wednesday, which means we're in this row right here. I'm using my cursor because Eleanor said she could see my cursor. So that means nominally the college says our final exam will be on Wednesday, May 18th. I will be in the classroom on that day, I hope anyway, but that'll be the last day that you can take the final exam. I hope to have it deployed earlier than that, and you can take it when you choose to. I think I'm finished with this, and I think I'm going to stop sharing just for a moment. And I'm going to go back to this, and I'm going to double check to see if there's questions. Now, the only comment that I see is Jesse Hayes Carver's email, or what is that? Yeah, that's his email address, I guess. But I'm here if anybody wants to go off mic and ask a question, or if anybody wants to throw something in the chat box asking a question. And I will, in my head, count to 10 slowly in case people do have questions about anything we've done so far. Okay, I hit 10. Your questions are always welcome, but we'll just continue going on. So I'm going to be sharing my screen yet again with you. I'm sharing the application screen, and I'm going back to that, let's see, these talking points. We just finished the syllabus walkthrough. Okay, so that is good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do a brief tour of Blackboard, okay? And before I leave this slide, I will talk about the calculus review walkthrough. Okay, but this is what your Blackboard screen looks like. And again, Eleanor said you could see my cursor, so I am pointing. Okay, announcements is a big deal. I will be communicating with you, even when we're meeting in the classroom, through the announcements a lot, because I'll think of something and I'll say, oh, I should tell my differential equations class about this. And so I will send you an announcement. Almost every time I send you an announcement, I will click a little button that says send this as an email immediately. So for example, let's suppose that I do end up changing my office hours, which is certainly possible. Well, I would send you an announcement and say, hey, I've changed my office hours again. And this really will just have whether they begin at 9 or 9:30 or whatever that's happening. But, you know, I could send you this and I would put in the announcements, but I don't have these announcements evaporate. And what that means is that the announcements are there for the duration. So for example, and by the way, I do share my credentials with Jesse Hayes Carver, and Jesse Hayes Carver will communicate with you over these announcements as well. So Jesse might say, oh, gee, I've developed a practice test or something for you, and you should know about this, and you know, you can go and look at it. I don't delete any of these, and if you read these in reverse order, it's a course journal. It talks about what we've done. So for example, suppose that you reach a point where you're wanting to review for the midterm, and you said, oh, we studied separable differential equations during this midterm. First part of the term, and I want to review that, but I forget where that lecture is. Well, you can go back and look in the announcements. You can find that. You can click there, and you can go and watch that video again if you want to. So this is this is an important thing, and it's a resource for you, and we will use it a lot. The next thing up is called the Syllabus tab, and I don't really want to get confused, and so I abuse the Syllabus tab, and by that I mean almost anything I want you to look at, I put there. So for example, when I haven't done it yet, but I am going to put the low stakes assessment number 1, I'm going to put that in the syllabus tab. So you don't have to worry about where do I look for these things. You look in the syllabus tab, and that's where I'm putting things for you. I know I got a lot of other places that I could put it, but that's in the syllabus tab. So that's important. You can go look at your grades eventually, that's fine. You can send email to your classmates, that's fine too. Collaborate Ultra is what we're doing now. I mean, we'll do this for a while. I hope we don't have to do that forever, but we'll see. This Math Assistance Live button is an important button because that will take you directly to the virtual online math assistance area. And Jesse Hayes Carver said they have a lot of hours. They have over 70 hours when they're available, and there's a lot of help there. So that's an important thing. There is a thing, and by the way, you don't have access to this, notes, because notes are mine. And that just means if I start writing a test, I have a good idea on a question or something, I might start writing the question down, but then I have to throw it somewhere. I'll throw it in the notes. That's just a workspace for me. And I suppose you could say, oh, I want to hack into that. It probably wouldn't be worth your time because my head is kind of a chaotic space. But anyway, that's my space. Then there's a thing called PDF upload. Now, if we are doing things in class, I'm just going to, for the most part, have you hand in things in class, but we're not starting in class. We're starting whatever we're doing now. So this is, you would click there to upload your LSA1. So we're going to talk about that in a bit. We haven't talked about it yet, but that's where you do it. It is PDF upload. I did a similar thing with my Calculus 1 class earlier today. And a student at the end, I polled the students to ask them questions. I said, do you have any questions? And I asked everybody that. And anyway, the student said, well, how do I upload this? So that student missed this. And it's okay if you missed it because I'll tell you again, but the PDF upload is where you're going to do that. Now, that's part of the tour. Now, there will be things that the College of DuPage administration makes us do and makes me do. And on one hand, I would say that, hold on, folks. Did you want me? Oh, okay, they don't want me at all. Somebody came past, but they didn't need me. Okay, so I'm back with you now. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, the College of DuPage makes me do a bunch of things. And to tell you the truth, I'm not happy doing it, but I like my job here, so I do it. One thing is called a roster verification. And that means 10 days into the term, they want to know, have you heard of it from this student or not? And they want me, if I say I've heard from you, or I know you exist, they want me to have proof of that. The proof of that I'm using is going to be your low stakes assessment number 1. So if you turn in a low stakes assessment number 1 during the first 10 days of class, I can say, yes, this person is a good standing in this course, and I've got proof because they turned this thing in. That's the proof. I'm not taking attendance. Did you show up or not? You're doing something. Now it's hard, but I'm just telling you what I'm going to use that for. And I either put, it's fundamentally yes or no, and it's like Y or N or something. I don't know. But anyway, I have to fill that out about you. Okay. I think it may say active and not active, but anyway, that's what it is. Now there can be bad consequences, so do the LSA 1. They also make me issue quarter and midterm grades. You won't have a high stakes assessment until I give you the midterm, which might not be the day when the college says, oh, midterm grades are due. I'm just telling you what I usually do. For the quarter and midterm grade verifications, I usually just say S, meaning satisfactory, or U, meaning unsatisfactory. If you haven't turned in any low stakes assessment, I'm probably going to say that's unsatisfactory. If you've turned it in, I'm probably going to call you satisfactory. That doesn't mean I'm not going to grade your midterm. I am, and I'm going to communicate with you, and you'll know where you really are. But it's not going to be this part of a thing. There's also a totally separate exercise that's called midterm verification, and that gets sent to somebody else. So I have all these things I have to have to do. I'm sort of telling you, I have to pay attention to this. You, except for doing the things I ask you to do, you don't have to pay much attention to this at all. And we'll go through there. Now, I am going to show you the calculus review walkthrough. And what I used to do for the longest time is I had the students actually do this calculus review and turn it in as the low stakes assessment 1. Now, I've decided, and I've moved away from doing this, not because it's not important, because we are going to be doing these kind of problems. I carefully chose the problems that are there, and it is worthwhile for students to do this. But there were students who, frankly, were frustrated by this. They were driven to tears. They didn't remember the things. They were spending all their time doing this, and they were, redoing their entire calculus career. So I am going to show you what this is. It is going to be in the syllabus tab, but I am not collecting it, but I am going to show you what it is just briefly so you know what I'm talking about. And you see, I'm okay, because what we're going to do is, if we reach a point where we have to talk about partial fractions, I'll talk briefly about partial fractions. But you may want to, I'll refresh that on your own, but I'm not making you do all of that stuff as a gateway getting started kind of thing. So I am going to try to find, boy, I thought I had it down here. Maybe it's somewhere else. Okay, I'm not 100% sure how this is going to work, and I run the risk of, I'm going to open up another browser window, and I am going to go to Blackboard through that. And Eleanor, I'm probably going to do a check with you in a bit to see if we're really there. And I'm going to go to, what are we? We're differential equations. And I think it's down here. Let's see. Gosh, it's not there. Is it in my syllabus tab? It's not there either. Okay, I'm going somewhere else to look at it. Don't worry, I do know what I'm doing. It wasn't where I thought it was. I'm going to the last time I taught differential equations. I'm going to the syllabus tab there. And here it is the calc review. Okay, and I guess I'm going to download that to the desktop. Gosh, it's already there. Okay, so I say yes, there it is. Okay, now finally, Eleanor, I'm checking with you. Are you looking at a PDF?
Yeah.
Good, okay, that's cool. All right, so all I'm really going to do is look at all these integrals. There's a whole bunch of integrals. And some of them are definite integrals and some of them are indefinite integrals. And do you know how to do all of these? Maybe, maybe not. But eventually, you're going to run across and have to do all of these. For example, this number 13, what you have to do here is you would have to do long division, polynomial long division first, and then you would do partial fractions. So, there's a whole bunch of problems here. You see all kinds of trig stuff and trig substitutions and hyperbolic trig functions, and and here's some pre-calc even. Fundamental theorems of calculus. Eventually there'll be partial derivatives. Here's some velocity problems. Here's some limit problems. Here's infinite series problems. Here's partial derivative problems, and so on. So there were 55 of these. I have decided not to make you do that, but I do want you to understand that you are going to be doing a bunch of this stuff when we go through, but I'm not asking you to do that at the beginning. It's proven counterproductive for students to do that. So that's sort of a warning shot. If you want to review that, that's a useful thing to review, but you don't have to. And I am going to put that in your syllabus tab. It's not there yet. Okay, I think I'm finished with this. Now I am going to talk about LSA 1, and I'm saying this is due February 7th or before because that's more or less the time when I need to fill out that 10-day roster verification saying, yeah, this student is engaging in the course. This is the way I'm going to, sort of force you to be engaged. Now, you should do more problems than just the LSAs. And in fact, Jesse Hayes Carver sometimes will, give students problems. He's, hey, do these, things like that. There are problems in the book, and I would encourage you to do problems in your book, but I'm not always giving you, exactly saying, oh, do problem 1 through 20 or something like that. You want to do enough problems that you know what's going on. But the LSAs will be collected, and this is the first one. Now, these are intended to help you learn. And so sometimes they're like the kind of questions I'll ask on test. Sometimes they're harder, and so on and so forth. I actually enjoy making LSAs, and they're intended to help you learn. They're intended to help you understand what kind of questions I might ask. And frankly, I'm providing these to help your grade, because you should be able, with all the take-home protocols and help that's available, you should be able to get a good mark on these low-stakes assessments, and that should help your grade. Again, the work should be your own. Okay, now here is the first LSA that is due on February the 7th. This is not posted in your, I hope I started the video. Did I start the video? I think I did. I hope I did. But anyway, so there'll be a video there. I'll post this in your syllabus tab and things like that. I haven't done it yet. But anyway, this is the guts of it. And by the way, when you think about this, and if you watched my video about the carbon-14 dating, which I hope you did, this you're going to kind of say, oh, this is sort of like that. So I can use that as a bit of a model. Okay, so at time t equals 0, a snowball has a radius of 10 centimeters. At time t equal 5, the snowball has a radius of 8 centimeters. When will the snowball be completely melted? Now, you can use my video as a little bit of a model, but the physics is not the same. And so you as an engineer want to think a little bit about the physics as you set up the model for this. And so, you'll write this up, you'll make it into a PDF, you'll upload the PDF to Blackboard, and that will be done. Okay, now my approach, as I said, is I am not going to make you do the calculus review. I've been there, done that. That's not the best way for us to proceed. But also, another way that I've chosen not to proceed is start with chapter 1 in the book, because chapter 1 starts with, what is a differential equation? And it goes through definitions and things like that. And the definitions are kind of dry, and students actually don't have anything to bounce the definitions off of, and so it's not the best way to do something. So what I did in the videos, and I'm not repeating all that stuff here, but what I did in the videos is I did talk about a series modeling application, and that was the carbon-14 problem. Okay, so the carbon-14 problem, and I went through kind of a complete solution of that, and I used this as an introduction to the concept of separation of variables. Okay, so the serious modeling application was carbon-14 dating. The important solution technique, which I do expect you to know, I will ask you to, do these things, is called separation of variables. So that's done. I also talk in the videos so far that I've published. I talk about a meaningful extension of this technique, which is extends this to homogeneous equation. And after this, I'm thinking that probably what we will do is we'll go back and we'll do the definitions. But then when you see the definition of differential equations, you'll say, oh yeah, well, I've solved some of those. I know about those things. So we'll be able to hang our hats on those. And after we do that, we'll come back and we'll study other kinds of differential equations. Now, part of the art is, and a lot of the differential equations I will ask you to do on the midterm is I will just say, solve this. And you have to figure out, how am I going to approach the solution? And you'll have many techniques. And some of them are separation of variables, but understand that I consider this to be part of the art, is that you have separation of variables in hand, and you can recognize when you can do that, and you can try that. One of the things that's nice, and this is a true story, is you can say, yeah, I thought there was separation of variables, but I tried it and I crashed and burned. So that doesn't work. I have to try something else. That would be kind of the kiss of death in a class where you had a finite amount of time to do the problem. But if you're doing this in the testing center and you've allowed the right amount of time, you say, well, crap, that didn't work. So you throw away those papers and you start again in a different approach. You can do that. So this is my approach. I think this is the way I want to be teaching this course. Okay, so that's what we've got. Now I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and I might end up asking you this twice, but I'm going back and I'm going to look at the 9 students that we have here. And these are people, so I have a list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, it looks like Jesse's still here, but I'm not really sure he is. He might have dropped off. Anyway, looks like we've got 9 attendees, but 2 of them are me and Jesse. So it looks like there's 7 of you. I am polling each of you. Now, if it turns out your microphone's not working, you can make a comment and just say, I have no questions, or ask a question. Or if your mic is working, you can, go off mic and, respond and things like that. I'm not asking you a tough question here. I'm really just saying, do you have any questions? And I'll get to maybe hear from you a little bit. So Daniel Johnston, do you have any questions?
No, not really. The only thing that I feel like commenting on is, yes, you have been recording, so you can
Good,
yeah.
Great, excellent. And thank you for answering my questions, because sometimes I'm not paying as much attention as I should. Okay, thank you, Daniel, and it is good to see you. Okay, let's go down, and now we have a Danny. It looks like Janiak. I may have said that wrong.
No, I don't have any questions then. That was fine.
Okay, that's all fine. Eleanor, I do want to tell you that I really appreciate you helping me out like this, because a lot of times I really don't know, if I'm lecturing to an empty classroom or what. So anyway, it's good that you're helping me, and I will try in the future maybe to pick somebody else for that burden. But today you're my go-to person. So anyway, Eleanor, do you have any questions or comments that you want to raise at this point in time?
First of all, my pleasure. I'm happy to do this for you. Second of all, I did want to clarify about the exams in the testing center. You had said that, the time period for taking the exam would be extended across a few days, but when taking the test, you have as much time as you need. Could you clarify? Like, I don't know.
Yes, yes, I will. Okay. And by the way, I'm changing a little bit. I used to make really long tests, and as I get older, I am making shorter tests. I don't know what's happening, but anyway, here's what that means. And by the way, don't write this down because I'm just totally making this up. But I might say, okay, the exam, the midterm exam will be available for you to take from Tuesday through close of business Monday in the testing center. Now, it might not, and I will give you dates, so it'll be some given Tuesday and the following Monday. And it might not be that long of a period. I might just give you like 3 days or something. But still, there will be a hunk of time. And so then you, Eleanor, will be looking at your life and when you're on campus and things you got scheduled and yada, 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 all those kind of things. And you will decide, okay, I'm going to go in on Thursday morning to take the test. Now, I don't know if the testing center is even open on Thursday morning, but you go in when they're open sometime. And let's just say you go in Thursday morning and you say, and I don't have a class until Thursday evening, another class. So you go in and you may be able to go in there and by the way, they will test to make sure it's you. You will have to show them a picture ID. And they'll say yes, and they'll say, okay, here's your test, and go over there, and I will give them all the rules that I want to have about, what kind of calculator you can use, all that kind of business. They'll have it. But if you got there when they opened at, and I'm totally making this up, Eleanor, but let's suppose that they opened at 8 o'clock. You could go in there at 8 and stay till they're closed, and let's suppose on that day they're closing at 5 until they close, and you could spend that time there taking that test if you wanted to.
Okay,
Now that doesn't mean, Eleanor, that I'm writing a test that will necessarily take you that long. But some students have accommodations. They say, oh, I get double time and stuff like that. And I kind of say you have as much time as you choose to spend on it. Did that help?
Yeah, totally makes sense. Thank you so much.
Okay, so that's that. Anything else, Eleanor, or do I move on to Ali?
I think that's good for me. Thank you.
Okay, and actually I may have, one of the things that's confusing in Blackboard is I never know if we have first names or last names. For example, Eleanor is listed as Eleanor being her first name, and there's something that I kind of discerned was a last name. That's why I was calling her Eleanor, and there is a last name here. There's another person who is listed as, well, sometimes anyway, I can't even tell whether it's first names or not. So I'm going and I was saying Ali. I was guessing Ali might be a first name because I've actually worked, when I worked in the industry, I worked with more than one person named Ali, in fact. But I have, it's, and I don't know first and last name. It is Fazan Ali. And I don't know if there's a first name or last name. My first name is Fazan. Okay, thank you. Okay, and I hope that in the classroom we will get to know each other's face, and I will just call you that, and that will be all good. Do you have any questions, or are you good with everything so far? He has no questions. Okay, that is good. And now we go to Jonathan Michael. And Jonathan Michael could be Michael Jonathan or Jonathan Michael, because you never know with Blackboard. But anyway, it's Jonathan Michael. Do you have any questions?
Not right now. Eleanor asked my question, and then my
Okay.
first name is Jonathan, but you could call me John.
Okay, I will try to remember that, and if we ever get face to face, I actually try to have an interactive classroom whenever I'm face to face, and I ask students to maybe read problems or something like that, just to have them be involved, and so that is good. Okay, so no additional questions there. That's fine. And now I go to and I'm just going to say the way it shows up here. And I don't know if there's something that's hyphenated, which is probably the last name. So I'm going to call this Rowan Kartik Narajan. And I probably butchered that. I'm sorry. Do you have questions?
No questions. The last part is Narayan, but good job in the first two parts.
He just passed away, but there was there was an artist, a singer named Meatloaf who just died very recently, and Meatloaf had a song that I really enjoyed, and it was called "2 Out of 3 Ain't Bad." But anyway, I hope to get all your names right, but I probably am just going to call you Rohan. Rohan, whenever just calling people their first names is good for me. Okay, so no additional questions. And last but not least in this list is Victor Campos.
Yeah. I just had one question about the LSAs. Are those gonna be, do you know if they're gonna be like weekly, or are they just gonna be like spaced out like whenever you would assign them?
I would say weekly-ish.
Okay.
Okay, but I'm really doing them more just to say, oh yeah, I'm giving these students good grades because they did well on this thing, and I'll give you some time to do them and things like that. I don't expect these to be the only problems that you do. By the way, folks, I am realized that I'm over time, but I'm going to give you your full 10-minute break, so you will have your full 10-minute break. So don't worry about that. But I do expect, and there is value in you doing more than just the problems that I ask you in LSAs, but those will be the things that will contribute directly to your grade. Doing more problems will contribute indirectly to your grade for sure. And again, I'm going to say more or less. I'm like you guys. I'm busy. I'm doing a lot of things, and I do like teaching, and I do like writing LSAs and things like that. But more or less weekly would be what I hope. But if I get behind, I'm not going to give you 10 to do at once. So anyway, we'll see how that goes.
Okay, cool.
All right, now I'm going to declare a break. I'm going to declare that it is 2:18 by my PC. And so that means at 2:28, we will reconvene and we'll finish this, and we will only go to 2:50. So it'll all work. And that's good. So we're on break now. I'll start talking again at 2:28, and I'm probably going to just let this be dead time in the recording. But if you end up watching this recording, you can fast forward through the dead time. Okay, so we're on break now. So if you need to go get coffee or something, and in fact, I'm going to warm up my coffee in the microwave. So I'm doing that too. All right, 2:28, we're back. Okay, I see that it's 2:28 by my clock, so we're going to reconvene and let's share some content and we'll do some things. Okay, so I'm sharing application screen again, and I'm going back to, let's see, I guess I called it this. Okay, now I did a few videos, and the videos, if you're trying to match yourself up with the book, you're going to want to look in the book, in the section. It is probably in chapter 2, and it is called separation of variables, or separable equations, or something like that. But that's what I just dove into, and so. And I'm not worried about how many examples we do here, because I did a whole bunch of examples there. You may or may not have had an opportunity to watch and study those videos, but I encourage you to do so if you haven't. But I'm just going to jump in, and so here we go. So here we have this very first problem that's listed up here, and it is called problem number 13, because I jerked this out of a book where it was problem 13. And you have all of this thing. And you might say, wow, is this a differential equation? Well, it is. It's listed in terms of differentials here. But if I were to, and this is a proper engineering way to think about it, if I were to divide all the way through by dx, I would have dy dx over here. I would just have this thing, and I would have a differential equation. And so this is one of the ways that differential equations could manifest themselves. And so this is one of the standard kind of ways that it might present itself. Now this one actually is separable. And so I'm going to ask you to spend, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes or something like that, and I'm going to ask you to solve this. Now you might not be able to solve it in 2 minutes, but the idea is you're trying to use algebra to separate the variables. So you have, on one side you just have y's, on the other side you have just x's. And so everybody give that a go. And I'll give you 2 minutes, and that means that 32, actually that's only 1 minute, but I'll give you a minute to get that done, then we'll go through the solution. But it is useful for you to give this a go, because you're going to be prepared to do the solution if you've done that. Okay, so everybody please do that. And I'll give you a minute, I'll tell you when the time is up, and then we'll go through and see how you did. Okay, we're going to jump and look at a solution to this, okay? So you should be looking at a PowerPoint slide, and this is what happens. So if you did the algebra correctly, you would have ended up with e to the y over e to the y plus 1 whole squared dy. So you see, we just got y's on this side of the equation. And on the other side, we're going to have minus e to the x over, and this is e to the x plus 1 whole cubed dx. So we, the left-hand side, just y's. And on the right-hand side, we have just x's. And so we have separated the variables. But now you're not finished yet. What you have to do is solve this, so you're going to be integrating both sides. Now you see the y is a dummy variable and the x is a dummy variable. So if this side is equal to that side, the integrals are going to be equal to one another. But now you've got two integrals that you have to do. And these are not difficult integrals, but you may have to remind yourselves of how to do this integral. What I would do on this side, and when I say this side, I'm talking about the left side, I would let u equal e to the y plus 1, and then du would be e to the y dy. So it looks like you've got u to the minus 2 du on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, you're going to let u be something else. It is e to the x plus 1. And then du is going to be e to the x dx. Now, you notice you got the minus sign there, so you have to deal with that. But so we're going to integrate here. Now what you're going to do on the left side, you had u to the minus 1. So what you're going to do is add 1 to the exponent. So u to the minus 2 becomes u to the minus 1. And you divide by the new exponent. So you have negative e to the y plus 1. And then this is minus 1. And then on the right-hand side, what happens is you add 1 to the exponent. This was u to the minus 3. So when I add 1 to the exponent, I get minus 2. But I divide by the new exponent that is dividing by minus 2. And the minus times a minus is going to cancel out. Now, you have to put a constant somewhere here. And dealing with constants is one of the things that mathematicians sometimes play fast and loose with, and particularly in differential equations. So there's a constant somewhere. In fact, there's multiple constants that could be happening here, but I'm just going to lump them all together in one constant, and I'm going to put it over here. Now, if you look at this, you might say, well, this is unsatisfying because I wanted to end up with y equals f of x. Well, good luck with that, because this is a hard thing to solve for y. Now, it's not impossible, but you get a logarithm and things like that. And so this is a surface in the xy plane, and this surface satisfies that differential equation. And sometimes I will ask you to explicitly solve for y, and other times not. And sometimes what will happen is that when you solve for e to the y, you're going to figure out what that constant is, things like that. But this is the solution that you get from this one for separation of variables, and this would be the answer that I'd want you to give me. Now, depending on your approach, what might happen when you're going through something like this is you might do things quite differently, and that makes differential equation papers sometimes difficult to grade, because you have to say, well, what was this student doing, and did they do it right? And things like that. But this is the answer to the problem. And notice that it's not a unique answer to the problem. C could be 2, or C could be pi, or C could be anything. So this is a family of solutions that satisfies this differential equation. So this is a good example of separation of variables. Okay, I'm going to pause for a count of 10 Mississippi in case people want to ask questions about anything that I did here.
I have a good question.
Yes, go ahead.
So I might be just forgetting something, but how come when we're integrating for each variable, even though they're both dummy variables, only the side pertaining to the x gets that constant, but the y side doesn't? Is there a
You
reason
could
for
have
that?
put it you could have put it on the other side, and sometimes there's reasons for that. That's just what I did here. It would not be wrong if you put plus C on the other side. In fact, it wouldn't have been wrong if you put plus C1 plus C2, except that's not efficient.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
There is a constant, and by the way, what will happen is, I think as you go through this course, you'll reach a point where you also will be running fast and loose with the constants. Now, I am going to tell you these constants can be very important, though, and we will talk about that. So I hope I answered your question. Any other questions? Okay, I'm going to pretend that that's it. Now here's another one for you to try. Oops, that was that one. Here's this one to try. Oh wait, I here go back to this. It's number 27. Everybody try 27. Now 27 is different, and the reason 27 is different is not only do I have to separate variables, but once I separate variables, I have an initial condition. And the initial condition is y evaluated at 0 is equal to the square root of 3 over 2. So we can figure out what the constants are. So everybody give this a go. I'll give you a couple of minutes to do this, and then we'll talk through a solution to this separation of variables problem. So I'm giving you a couple of minutes. So please have at it, and I'll call us together again when we're done. Okay, let's look at an answer to this. Okay, now when you separate variables then, and again, the way we wrote this was all on the same side is equal to 0. And again, this has a little bit to do with the management of constants and doing things that are a little bit, a little bit clever, I guess. But you end up with getting these are the x variables and these are the y variables. Now this is where you have to remember a bunch of your calculus. And if we had done that calculus review, you might have very much in mind that the integral of dx over the square root of 1 minus x squared is the inverse sine of x. Now, maybe you remember that, maybe you don't, but that's what it is. And you see, if you reached a point in time where you'd separate variables, you say, I don't know how to do these integrals. Well, you don't get full credit on the problem because you didn't finish the problem. And in fact, what's done on this problem is a little bit clever. So we integrate both of these, and so we have the inverse sine of x minus the inverse sine of y is equal to a constant. Now, you see what this is a solution to the differential equation, but not to the initial value problem, because we have to figure out what c is. And so if we take x to be 0, what will happen is that you'll find out that if x is 0 and when x is 0, y is the square root of 3 over 2, and you want to think through this, but your trigonometry tells you that c in this case is the negative pi over 3. So that's what c is. And if you wanted to have a solution to this, it's actually not very satisfying saying that the inverse sine of something minus the inverse sine of something else is minus pi over 3. You can come up with a much more wholesome solution by taking the, so you got minus pi, I'm hoping you see where I'm wiggling my cursor, but anyway, you got minus pi over 3 here. So what you can do is take the cosine of, or actually you can take the sine of both sides is what's done. So you see we got this. So when we take the sine of that, we can rearrange things, and we can end up with, this is that y is equal to the sine. You could solve for the inverse sine of y, I guess, move the other thing over, take the sine of both sides. So y is the sine of the inverse sine of x plus pi over 3. But if you use the trig identity for the sine of a plus b, you get x, and then this is going to be the sine of the inverse sine of x, which is going to be x, and then you're going to get the cosine of pi over 3 plus, and then you're going to have the sine times the cosine, and turns out the cosine, if the sine is this, the cosine is that, and so if you do that, you will get this expression. But we know that the cosine of pi over 3 is a half, and the sine of pi over 3 is square root of 3 over 2. So we can substitute in, and look, we actually have explicitly solved for y. And we will also, this is another thing I talk about in the video, you see if you explicitly solve for y, you will have an interval of validity where this equation is true. And this equation is going to be true as long as this side makes sense. And it's near, it has to be around the point x equals 0. So you'll go from -1 to 1. This equation will be true. So the interval of validity would be from -1 to 1. Okay, so I spent, and again, I'm not claiming this was a full lecture, but I did give you a full lecture on video. I think you want to look at that, and you want to not just do problem 13 and 27, maybe you want to do some more of these problems, because the more problems you do, the stronger you will be. You'll be better able to recognize, what's going to be separation of variables and so on and so forth. Now, we only got 3 minutes, so this is not going to be a thorough lecture, but I actually did give you a thorough lecture in the video, and I'm expecting that you will watch it. And here's what often happens in differential equations. We will learn how to do something like separation of variables, but then we will learn a clever technique. Notice I did not say trick, but a clever technique that will allow you to change other problems into the kind of problem that you know how to solve. And this is called homogeneous equations. And this is another section in your book. And so here's the definition of a homogeneous equation. So if f of tx, ty is equal to t to the alpha f of xy, then F is said to be homogeneous. And that's how we say that's not homogeneous, that's homogeneous of degree alpha. And so this one is homogeneous of degree 3. And that basically means that the exponents all add up to 3. So if it is, but here's an example of something that's not homogeneous. So some things work and some things don't. Anyway, here's what you can do. If M and N are homogeneous of degree alpha, then what you can do is you can make a substitution, and the substitution you can make is either U equal y over x, or U equal, y is equal to ux, or sometimes you want to say x is equal to vy, because you'll get different integrals that way. But if you do that, what happens is you have changed it into something that's separable in x and u. This can be solved by separation of variables, and then you substitute back. Now, I realize that was extremely abrupt with that, but you have some good videos that you should be watching, and please understand, I expect you to watch those videos. Okay, so we're almost done. I'm just going to count to maybe 10 to see if anybody wants to ask any last minute questions.
Will homogeneous equations be on one of those videos you had posted for us?
It already is. It is. Yes.
Great, thank you.
And I would encourage, you to watch all the videos, just because, well, I made them, and actually they're decent. They're not. I always, every time I do something, I realize I could do it better, but they're not bad. Okay, they're serviceable. And if you watch them as active learners, it's good. And videos are very useful. I know I'm almost finished. I'm not going to keep you much longer than this. But the one thing that I will tell you is it's really useful, because you can go to Jesse Hayes Carver's guided study group, and you could say, hey, in video number 5 at timestamp 826, I don't know what the hell he did. And then Jesse will say, oh, here's what he did. Or Jesse might say, oh, he screwed up or something. But still, you know, that's a good thing for you. Okay, so anyway, now more than ever, time is precious. Each day must count. Do the math, it'll make you strong. Take care of yourself and of each other. God bless you all. We're done for the day. I'll see you on, I guess it's Wednesday, and you're welcome to come to my office hours, but they're not required. And I will turn off that video. I'm stopping sharing, and I'll eventually post the video, I guess. So I stop sharing, and I need to stop recording.